Hello, and welcome to today's episode. I'm going to be your host, the Irrelevant Nerd. And today I'm going to be reviewing Loki Season 1 and 2 with light spoilers. I will reference specific plot points, but I'm not going to go through it beat by beat, but there are definitely spoilers through here. And as I'm going through and catching up on the MCU shows that I fell behind on, I wanted to stop and talk about Loki because this show is truly spectacular. I really enjoyed the first season, right when it was first coming out, but I didn't get around to watching Loki Season 2 when it premiered because admittedly, I just had some MCU fatigue with the amount of content, and that combined with the inconsistent quality of the MCU, it just kind of ended up getting lost in the fray of all these streaming shows and services that you have. But with me starting this channel, it's brought me back to kind of this universe and watching these shows and movies that I do enjoy the worlds, even if the quality isn't necessarily what I'd want to be. So I'm extremely grateful to the channel just for that. But here we go. We're going to get right into it. And right from the start, this show absolutely nails the tone. It has a very unique tone with just the right amount of comedy, drama, and I would say mystery. And it's very quirky. It has a lot of fun with the time travel and multiverse aspects of the show. The first episode is really strong. It immediately adds so much to Loki's character. I believe this is still in the first episode, but he essentially watches a movie of his life and it changes him to his core for the better. And this is a version of Loki that came from the 2012 Avengers. So this is pre his mom dying, pre his relationship with Thor being repaired, and he gets to see that. And it makes for a very nice and emotional scene when you're watching through it with him. And he is still his mischievous self and still makes some bad decisions along the way, but you can tell that he's trying to do better and wants to be better and wants to feel a purpose. And the other characters in the show are a lot of fun too. In particular, Owen Wilson as Mobius and his dynamic with Loki and between the characters is a lot of fun, really kind of snappy dialogue, and I really enjoy it. They have such great chemistry together immediately, and I'm kind of bummed that we'll probably not see them together anymore in the MCU, because I could definitely go for some more of just these characters hanging out because they really are so much fun. Sylvie, the female variant of Loki that we meet, is also a lot of fun, but she does make, frustrating choices at times, but she's also a great character too. The actual place where most of the show takes place, the Time Variance Authority, or the TVA, in and of itself is fascinating. The technology, the way that it looks, the pecking order, the way that they handle variants, the lore and mystery of the timekeepers it all works. And the show does a really good job of slowly feeding information to the audience, and it keeps the mystery there, but it does give you enough information that you feel like you're starting to figure some things out until some new twists and turns that happen. Now, in the first season, there are a few episodes that drag a little bit pacing-wise, and mostly in the middle of the first season. I would say probably episodes 3 and 4 if I remember correctly, but it has been a little while since I watched Loki season 1 cuz I only watched it the one time like right as it was coming out. Like I watched it week to week because I was enjoying it. So I believe it's episode 3 to 4, but I could be wrong. It could be 4 and 5 now that I'm thinking about it. But even though those episodes drag a little bit pacing wise, the constant mystery surrounding the TVA and some of the characters does keep the show extremely captivating throughout. Like you're always interested in what's going on, what's going to happen, and it does a really good job of writing a lot of the characters in a way that you can't really tell like who you can trust. And with Ravonna and Miss Minutes in particular, it's really hard to tell what their motivations are for pretty much the entire first season. And it does linger a bit into the second season, especially for Ravonna as well. And it just makes it fun as you're kind of looking at all these characters and you're trying to guess why and who is actually on Loki's side and who's good and who's bad. And just, it's such a fun aspect of the show. And when you get to the episode before the finale, I believe it's the episode before the finale, you get to see all of the Loki variants, and it's awesome. And something important that I think it shows is that, and like they showed it with Sylvie already, but the variants can look either exactly the same or totally different, whether or not it's, race, gender, size, species. And I believe that's going to be important in the multiverse saga going forward, in particular with Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom. I'm not exactly sure how, but I believe it's important that they've shown that variants can look alike, but also look different. But of course, we still have a little whiles to see what they're going to do with that. But I think the finale and introduction of He Who Remains / Kang are absolutely brilliant. It's a very effective way to set Kang up as the next big bad of the MCU, which ultimately didn't pan out, but that's not the fault of this show. The show really does a good job of putting him out there and portraying what kind of threat he might be and why there might be multiple versions of him popping up. And when you get to the end of the finale, it's mostly He Who Remains talking to Loki and Sylvie, and Sylvie's trying to kill him, and He Who Remains is avoiding it because he knows exactly how everything is going to happen up to a certain point. But I appreciate that it's not just some like big CGI boss fight at the end, kind of like you got with WandaVision, which really bummed me out because I thought WandaVision was its own unique sort of thing, and then it just fell into that MCU trap of we have to have the big CGI fight at the end. And this show proves that you don't need that. You just need to care about what's happening. So I super appreciated that. And it gives you the feeling of immediately wanting to consume more MCU content. Like, obviously, when this show first ended, the first thing I wanted was Loki Season 2, but you obviously have to wait. But it does make you want to go out and just consume more MCU stuff, whether or not it's the, Phase 1, which has a lot of Loki, or even watching him into Phase 2 and Phase 3 and seeing how he grows, or if it's just checking out other projects. But this is the type of project that it is such a high quality level that it makes you want to consume more when, even then, the quality was starting to waver a bit and a lot of fans were getting really nervous. This show reestablished all my trust in the MCU, and so I don't really know exactly why I didn't check out Season 2. Like I said, I think I was just worn down, but well, perfect segue. That kind of brings us to season 2, and it picks up immediately where season 1 left off, which I love, and literally takes off running, whether or not it's the character or the pacing of the story, but it just goes. And after waiting all of season 1 for answers that some we did get, we immediately start to have even more questions in season 2. And so even though the mystery behind the TVA is solved, there is still that mystery aspect to keep you hooked. And so at the beginning of the season, Loki is back at the TVA following him being like kicked through a door by Sylvie out of the the Citadel at end of time, but he's in the past of the TVA and nobody knows who he is, so they understandably try to like chase and arrest him, or I don't know if arrest is the right word, but they try to get him, but he almost immediately starts like glitching through time. I believe they call it time slipping, but he stays in the same location, he just goes to different points in time, and eventually he's able to meet up with the Mobius who knows him, and they try to come up with a plan to fix his time slipping. And they go to meet he's kind of like the main mechanic of the TVA, but it's a new character named Ouroboros they call Obi, and he is a very fun new character, but they go to him to help stabilize Loki in time. And the way that this scene is edited is absolutely brilliant because it cuts between Loki talking to Obi in the past and Mobius talking to Obi in the present, and the way that it jumps back and forth has a lot of comedic moments. And even though what they're doing really is kind of an exposition dump of how time travel and multiversal travel sort of works in this universe, it's just so fun. Like, this is how you should do exposition, because at no time do you feel like they're just explaining stuff to you. It's funny, it sticks in your mind, so you really kind of remember what's going on. Just all in all, the introduction scene with Obi is one of the best in the entire show from just an entertainment standpoint and an editing standpoint. It is so good. So once they kind of have Loki stabilized, the basic concept of season 2 is the TVA trying to figure out what to do with these like branching off timelines that are starting to pop up over and over again and just kind of like infinitely expanding outwards, while they're all trying to reconcile the fact that they are all variants. And they know that now. And then you have like our main group, which is Loki, Mobius, Obi, and Casey, with, I guess Sylvie could be included in that group later, but kind of up front, it's Loki, Mobius, Obi, and Casey. And they're trying to figure out a way for the temporal loom to handle all of these new timelines so they don't have to be proned. And while that's going on, before she joins the team, Sylvie she's a McDonald's worker who is just happy to be making her own choices and enjoying her freedom. And so she's just kind of off on her own at the beginning. And then like you've Ravonna and Miss Minutes are trying to get a variant of He Who Remains named Victor Timely to progress and eventually replace He Who Remains by giving him a TVA manual when he's a child to sort of set him on the path to creating the TVA and basically everything that we saw up through season 1. And it gets confused. Like, this is a show you definitely have to pay attention to, of him receiving his own work in the past. It's a very paradoxical show, but it's eventually revealed that for the main group of Loki, Mobius, Obi, and Casey to make any changes to the loom, they need He Who Remains temporal aura to access the loom. So Loki and Mobius travel to where he is and try to go after Victor Timely, just like Ravonna and Miss Minutes, and which Sylvie is also worried about Victor Timely turning into He Who Remains, so she eventually chases him to kill him as well, which starts to bring all of the plots of the season together, and it does it pretty well, but it eventually, this is what brings Sylvie into the fold of the main group. But eventually, after some shenanigans, Loki and Mobius are able to get Victor Timely to the TVA, and they come up with a plan to increase power to the temporal loom. But after they've made all the adjustments, Timely tries to go out to the loom to do the repair that they're talking about, and he's instantly turned into like spaghetti, I guess is the best way to describe it, because the temporal radiation has just gotten way too high, and so the loom explodes. And Loki wakes up, and it appears he's the only one who survived. He's inside the TVA, and it's starting to get like spaghettified as well. But he starts time slipping again in the TVA, but he's now also starting to move around in space, not just time. Like at the beginning of the season, he is time slipping, but he's in exactly the same spot as where he was, like whether or not it's in the past or the future. But now he's moving around space and starts to go out into these other timelines as well. So it's like a completely different type of time slipping. And so he ends up basically visiting the like variants of Mobius, OB, B-15, and Casey, I believe that's all of them, and kind of assembles them into a team to try to come up with a plan now that the loom has exploded and time is starting to unravel. And Loki does try to recruit Sylvie as well. She remembers who he is. She seems to be the only one who does. None of the other variants have any memories of the TVA or any recognition of Loki whatsoever. But so Sylvie does, but she does refuse to help because she just thinks that this is everybody getting their free will, and she thinks that this is what's best. And during their conversation, Loki admits that the main reason he's trying so hard to get everybody back to the TVA is because he's basically afraid to be alone, and he doesn't know who he is without his friends. And it's actually a pretty sad moment. But eventually Sylvie's timeline starts to like spaghettify as well. So she rushes over to try to meet up with the group and help Loki, but everybody starts to turn into spaghetti except for Loki. But everybody around him and not even everyone, everything, like all the desks, chairs, it all just kind of starts to turn into this spaghetti looking stuff that's floating through the air. But the emotional stress of feeling that he has lost everyone and everything pushes Loki into being able to control his time slipping. And so he jumps back to before the loom explodes and sets up just a glorious finale, which, yes, pun intended. But Loki tries everything he can when he gets back to that moment to try to make sure that Victor Timely can get out to the loom to make this repair. And eventually he does, but it turns out that no matter what he does, the loom cannot handle all of these extra branches because the branches are infinitely multiplying on top of each other, and you can't you can't expand infinitely from a machine, I believe is how Victor Timely explains it. So basically, no matter what he does, the plan will always fail. So Loki decides to kind of make the ultimate sacrifice and like take the place of the loom himself. Like he goes out onto the bridge, protecting himself with his magic, and he breaks the loom with his magic, and then grabs these timelines that just kind of all flew randomly into the air and uses his magic to revive and stabilize the timelines. And he finds like a throne at the end of the time, and so in a way he does get to sit on his throne, but it's at the end of time and he's by himself, which was really kind of sad and poignant because he had already admitted that was like what he was most afraid of in the episode before. And it shows him watching all of his friends and loved ones from this space at the end of time, and he's just kind of serving as like the god of stories and the protector of these timelines now. And the ending is really emotional, and I found it very moving and captivating from beginning to the end. I think the finale of season 2 is the best episode of probably any MCU show that we've gotten. I loved it, and I am bummed that it did take me so long to get around to season 2, basically, until I started this channel and wanted to do some rankings and talk about the characters. And so I got around to watching it, and it is really so good. And if you haven't seen it, I know I did talk about some spoilery things in here, but I tried to keep it vague because after I had missed season 2, I did still want to know the story. So I kind of went back and looked at a synopsis. So I kind of knew the basic premises I was going in, but watching it unfold was so much more beautiful and complex than I was understanding. And it really is, I think it's one of those things that you can't actually understand what's happening until you see it. So if you haven't, even if you just watched this review and you think it's spoiled for you, it is worth watching. Like, definitely go and check it out because this is a fantastic show. It is beautiful. It's directed fantastically. It's written great. The acting is just amazing. The characters are so much fun. And even though I do believe some of the things that happen in this show will play a bigger part, maybe in Doomsday or Secret Wars, as it sits right now, Loki is just kind of its own like little pocket universe. So there isn't a bunch of homework that you really have to do before. You kind of watch like phase 1 of the MCU so you can catch up to like this version of the character with Loki, but it exists on its own, so not a whole bunch of homework. And I, like I said, cannot recommend it enough. This show is gets an A+ from me, a absolute 10 out of 10. First season probably would have been like a 9 out of 10, but with season 2 probably being like an 11 out of 10, it evens out to get us our perfect 10 out of 10. So let me know what you guys think down below. Am I being too high on the show? Did you find it confusing? Did you find it odd, too off-putting to enjoy? Because there is a lot to grasp in the show because there's a lot of time travel aspects and it can get confusing. But even with some confusing moments, I thought it did all ultimately make sense and just is so beautiful. But let me know down below, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one.